Okay, I'm going to try to get through the rest of music section 4 in one video here. There's 2 songs, and mostly we're talking about the last agreements to go back and forth. Most of this is all about who went and why. So here's an important thing for you to notice and remember. This is something called the Lacey-Zarubin Agreement. So they've been negotiating for months, and if you notice, they've been having problems for years. Where is this at here? And so after 4 months, they come to this agreement, a plan for these cultural exchanges. And this will take you back to something that we were talking about earlier in the section, which is that fingerprinting clause. This was making it so the Soviets could not come very easily to the United States. And we wanted to be able to fix that problem. So part of the negotiation in Lacey-Zarubin was to just get rid of the fingerprinting requirement. Here's an interesting quote from Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was not president at the time. He was Senate Majority Leader. He says, "This is a positive step toward reducing the barriers of suspicion and distrust in a war-weary world." One of the people we're going to talk about is this Leonard Warren. He is part of a pair in a group able to go early on. So if you remember when we were talking about the pianist Gilels and the violinist Oistrakh and how popular they were, the United States wanted to capture some of that popularity for themselves over in the Soviet Union. So they found this Leonard Warren and asked him if he might be interested in being part of all this. He is a baritone singer. He's one of those people who is, he's untraditionally trained, and kind of an interesting but sad thing to have happen to him. He actually died while he was singing on stage at the Metropolitan Opera House. He performed over in the Soviet Union, and they loved him very, very much. This phrase, this sentence here, listeners never wanted his music to end. They encored him for a very long time. This is something that they asked him to sing. It's called Colorado Trail. It's an example of like what they consider to be American music. I don't really see it as all that American for the time. It kind of feels a little bit like a musical piece. This one is not my favorite from the whole thing, but the people in Moscow absolutely adored this song. So here's a couple of the phrases I want you to get. One of them is word paint. In section B, we're supposed to hear Warren's voice going really high for his range, and it's supposed to be like he's word painting mountains. Another thing, this doesn't happen until I guess it happens in the middle as well as the end. This thing called melismas. This is kind of interesting to hear. Melismas happen in this song on the syllable oo, and it's supposed to kind of resemble, theoretically, a howling coyote. So a melisma, the actual term, is a vocalist singing more than one pitch. They say note here, it's pitches, while sustaining a single syllable. So here we go. This is Colorado Trail. I want you to notice, first off, that the form is this very, very comfortable AABA form. I might not play the whole song, but here we go. Colorado Trail. See, it's like super quiet, nice, calm. Those arpeggios are kind of the rolled chord. It's andante in the tempo. Okay, so you heard him robbing the tempo there. He was doing whatever he wanted there with the tempo. That's rubato.
God Almighty
So more rubato. I want you to listen here for this word painting on the word mountain.
On the mountains high blowing, on the mesas far and near, I hear the chorus of melody. Cowboys, come back.
I'm going to jump to the coda here. I want you to hear the melismas. Kind of sounds like a coyote. There you go. Colorado Trail. Colorado Trail. Sung by, I don't remember what his first name is, last name Warren, Leonard Warren. Leonard Warren. All right, so more artists who go overseas. The Soviets didn't want to do jazz performers, but they did end up later enjoying it in the Soviet Union. Jazz players often found themselves in labor camps. Very hard experiences for them. But as we talked about one other time, Voice of America popularized the jazz music overseas, and they couldn't stop it anymore after Stalin's death. One of the jazz artists under this new agreement, this is the Lacey-Zarubin Agreement, we have Benny Goodman. Benny Goodman is very well liked. One of the reasons that the State Department likes him is that his older music is a little bit more conservative, but the current musicians don't like him very much. In 1970, we start to see another jazz artist. This is Duke Ellington. He has a jazz orchestra. He is also well liked, enjoyed. He goes on a tour in 1971, 22 concerts, 5 cities. Then, let's see. They talk about the kitchen debate again, but we're not going to go into that too much. This is something that I think you guys are interested in. We had talked in class about defecting, and here's what's starting to happen with all of these back and forth exchanges. People are starting to defect. They're starting to leave the Soviet Union. And there's some really kind of exciting stories in here about defections. So we have a composer who defected, he ran off. There is a whole list of other musical defectors and where they defected from and what year. This musician, Panufnik, the rest of his story happens, that's his picture right here. The rest of his story happens on page 150. It's kind of this exciting thing that happens. He has a taxi driver actually take him on this fast-paced flight, fast-paced running away from the authorities, and gets on a flight and goes to London and escapes the USSR. Other people are also defecting. You have people getting their citizenship stripped because they're not behaving in the USSR. People from all walks of life defect. Scientists, engineers, writers, Communist Party officials, KGB agents are leaving. Athletes, this one's an interesting. Stalin's daughter defected, left her homeland. And then this is where we get into our next piece, chess players. A lot of chess players also defected. So there's a musical made from this phenomenon happening where chess players are leaving. There's a musical made called Chess, okay? This is interesting here. It's made with two composers who are actually the male singers from ABBA. They create something called a concept album. Their nickname was the Three Knights. The show Chess was not all that popular, but the song that we're going to look at, called Embassy Lament, this song is kind of funny. You are to hear these civil servants at the British Embassy, and they're complaining about this unending stream of defectors that they're having to deal with. So these are just bureaucrats. They're low-level bureaucrats in the British government, and they're complaining about their job the whole time. Okay, and they're sadly making fun of these people who are trying to defect. This is where the term patter singing comes into play. It's kind of funny, and there's upward and downward fast scales that they do. They catch their breath sometimes, but it's supposed to kind of make you feel the repetitiveness of their job. When we play this song, which, remember, this comes from the musical Chess. Chess was not very popular. But the song is a good example of kind of this, how these defections were influencing media going forward. So here's our last musical selection, Chess.
Oh my dear, how boring, he's defecting, just like all the others.
This is that patter singing.
Us to be impressed with what's been done.
There's those scales.
Hasn't stopped to think about the paperwork these gesture causes. We've an embassy to run here with these people constant. Those stop freedom with a valid visa. We don't need them. If we seem offhand, please remember.
There's those up and down scales and leaps. This one gets repeated. This is rubato. If you listen in the back, you can hear the typewriter sound.
No one will recall it's thanks to us.
You have a wife? Yes. You have 2 children? Yes. And they're not coming with you? No, not for the moment. You play chess. You are good at it?
There's that typewriter.
Oh, I hear you're world champion. Since yesterday.
That's still good.
So they're not really even listening.
Have you an appointment with that consul? Don't we know what his response? So he will not see you with respect. With buyers of this very taxing schedule, pushing his understanding. Let us hope this won't affect it. Far too many jokers cross the border.
Supposed to be funny.
Documents in order. Russia must be empty. Though we'll order basic human rights. It makes you wonder what they built a Berlin Wall for. Who do these foreign chappies think they are?
So they don't have a whole lot of empathy for the people that they're working for.
Building all the problems because terrible disease. He really got the drug disarmed and disinfected. Please don't forget the guys who cut your keys.
All right, so this phrase, don't forget the guys who cut your keys, that's referring to these diplomats themselves. So don't forget us. We were the ones who got you what you needed. All right, that is the end of our musical selections. Enjoy.